Hello ladies and gentlemen, Xcentor here and welcome back to another YouTube video. Now today we'll be comparing the A350 in infinite flight, comparing it to the 787. Now I did want to compare it to all three of the aircraft, but we'll only compare it to the 9 variant because I think they're quite similar in size. I think maybe we'll compare it to the 10 or the 9 or 10 because they're quite similar in size. Now, if you're also new here, please make sure you like and subscribe and feel free to join the family. So let's start off with the A350, shall we? And the first thing I'd like to compare is our livery options. And there are like a gazillion options with your liveries on the A350 here, going from, Aer Lingus all the way down to Vietnam Airlines. There are so many choices. Now, we'll be comparing the Turkish Airlines liveries or a Singapore Airlines livery, mainly because I want an airline which has delivery on both the 787-9 and the 787-10. So like we've got United there, for example, or I believe there's BA, but I don't think BA have the A350, unfortunately. However, we can compare the United livery, even though it's the new livery on the A350, which again will be a bonus going towards the A350 when we are thinking about up-to-date aircraft. So let's start with the A350 and let's spawn on the runway at, where shall we go? Let's go to JFK for this video. Haven't been there in a little while. I haven't really done many flights in the United States recently, mainly European flights. But let's go to right here, 13 right, and we'll just sit on the runway there, where we can then compare the amazing aircraft. Now, if I ever go on a flight in infinite flight and it's like a long haulish, I would generally lean towards the A350, so potentially a little bit of bias there, but that's obviously just some typical bias. Now I remember when the A350 first came out there in infinite flight and it was super bugged. Now looking at this aircraft, from a start, it's a nice looking aircraft in infinite flight. So I'm going to cut off one of the engines so we can just compare the engine running to when the engine's off, but we'll have a look at that cockpit first, showing the cockpit view. Now it's well known that the exterior panels there on either side do not work in the A350 in infinite flight. I did ask some people and they said they do not work for some reason. I think that one does work, but some of the side screens don't unfortunately work, and apparently infinite flight were looking into ways to fix it. However, that is just rumours. I cannot confirm anything about it. So first thing we're going to look for is see if these switches move. Now it looks like potentially they move. So let's just have a look, shall we? No. So the seatbelt sign does not flick in here. And do any of the lights perhaps move? Oh, okay, right. So the lights all move. So that's a bonus then. At least the light switches all move here. Now, it's also well known with new aircraft like the A350, we've got full working throttle, the rudder pedals all work, the flap thing goes down. That's all well known. And they are all very simple. Now, unfortunately, that thing never really moves. Yeah, but the flaps thing does move, which is a good bonus. So, just have a quick comparison of the engines. We'll hop over into the 787 and then we'll come back to where we are now. So look, that is the engine when it's off. Now those fan blades, very clear. I mean the spiral is a little bit blurry, but they're very, very clear. And then even when the engine is running, I think it's decent engine. Let's just go inside the engine, general health and safety. Now the blade doesn't spin on the inside, but I don't think it does on many of the engines, but you can see the spiral moving there. So I think the engine structure itself, very good, very strong in the A350 here, and just the engine itself, they're massive and they look really cool. So now we're going to go to the 787. I say we're going to use the 787-9, but there isn't an Aer Lingus on any of the 787s, so we'll have to hop into let's use the new airline, the Vistara, because I saw there was an event with that earlier on. So many of you will be briefly familiar if you are involved with infinite flight events and stuff like that. So we're going to just pop off the engine, one of the engines again, and let them come down. Now the first thing we'll look at is the cockpit. And the first thing I noticed is it's a massive downgrade actually in comparison to the A350, even though the cockpit itself looks fairly decent, to be fair. For a non-live cockpit, this is about as good as you'll get in infinite flight. So it is a decent cockpit, not as good as the other one. We'll just see if any of the lights decide to move for us. No, none of them are moving, and none of them are moving. Now, I may be looking in the wrong place because I don't know where they are in the 787 cockpit, but I'd imagine they were up here somewhere. Normally down the end of the lights, but I don't know where they are, like I said, in this cockpit. However, got moving throttle. Does the flaps move? And the flap thing moves nice and slow. You know, that is nice. I just adjust the trim. Nothing moves for trim. So the flap stuff moves and all that. Rudder pedals move. You can see them moving there, down there, just about. So that is quite cool, you know. The cockpit itself, you know, you've got the little Pepsi can, the water can, and all this stuff. Another Pepsi, another water. And then let's just go out here and let's see the engines. Now, I do actually personally prefer the engines on the 787. I think they look better on the 787, especially in infinite flight. Even if we go inside, we've got that engine structure still. So I think the engines, genuinely, just my opinion, I think they're a little bit better on the 787. Of course, when it's spinning, let's see. When it's spinning, okay, maybe it's not as good, but when the engines are off, they're definitely better on the 787, I'd say. And I think the livery itself, liveries on the 787s have always been great in infinite flight. So just having a look at the brief livery here on the Vistara livery, I think the livery is great. Now, this is obviously one of the newer liveries, so a little bit biased, I suppose, or it doesn't represent the whole of the livery scene. But, I mean, the A350 has new liveries as well, so I suppose that is a more fair comparison. Now, the livery I've just, you know, hopped onto very quickly that you've seen is the carbon livery. It's one of my favourite liveries, actually. I just think it looks really cool, and when it came out, it looked really cool. So, as you see, we've compared the cockpit. We've mentioned the engines, we've mentioned the liveries. Now, we haven't mentioned a wing flex yet, so we're going to see and look for some wing flex in a second. But I'm just going to compare the interiors. Now, many of you know the A350 is nasty. Like, it's an interior, but it's kind of spooky, you know. Like, I don't know whether I'd rather this spooky stuff here. Oh, the plane's moving. I don't know if I'd rather the spooky interior or no interior. You know, you guys can be the judge of that. Personally, I'd rather no interior than that spooky interior. But what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can get any wing flex on this aircraft on takeoff. Actually, we'll just go on to short final. And we'll see how good that wing flex is looking. We should bump up our flaps and our gear. I'm not seeing much wing flex, but I'm pretty sure they did add some wing flex to the air. Maybe we need a little bit of wind. We'll just bunk up the wind, why not? Oh, okay. That is not meant to happen at all. Not seeing much wing flex. Maybe there isn't wing flex and I'm completely wrong. But we are in some heavy crosswinds now. Let's try and go to a side view. I'm not seeing any wing flex. Oh, there's a tiny bit of wing flex. There we go, we got it. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that, but there is a tiny bit of wing flex on the side of the wings there on the A350. Now, I'm hoping the 787 won't let us down. What livery shall we use? Let's go Turkish Airlines livery, because I love Turkish Airlines livery, as I tell you every time we get the livery out. And we'll just see. We'll see what we're dealing with here in the Turkish Airlines livery. So again, I'll show you the interior and then I'll show you the wing flex. Then you guys will get a good idea of how the planes are looking. Now, it might be the fact that Airbus aircraft, you know, just don't really have much wing flex. That might be a thing, but you know, I don't really care about that for this. So look, no interior, but I think again, I think I'd have personally rather no interior like that than what we see with the A350 just a few short seconds ago. Now, we are still in our awful wind conditions, and let's just bring up our engine, our flaps and that. Now, I'm pretty sure there is a wing flex on this aircraft. The only thing is, there we go, we got it moving. So, there we go. So there's quite a nice bit of wing. Oh, we're gonna crash. There's quite a nice bit of wing flex here on the 787, even though it's moving very fast. There is a fair amount of wing flex. As you can see, that even the wings, like, they're just perked up. and I think the wings do look a little bit better here on the 787. So we'll just do a little turn or something and see if it will catch it when we come out of the little turn. Nope. So again, the wing flex is very slight, but it's a bit more noticeable, and it just looks a little bit better on the 787. So, oh, there we go. So you see it sort of come down when we set ourselves back to spawn. So I think all in all, the A350 is definitely the better aircraft, mainly due to the 3D cockpit. But I think if the live cockpit, so I think if the 787 had a live cockpit, it would definitely be the better aircraft, without a shadow of a doubt. There's more livery options, I think, with the 787s in general. Remember, there are 3 787s you can choose from in Infinite Flight, whereas we can only choose from one of the A350 variants. I'm pretty sure there are more than one variant of the A350. So, all in all, I think if you're looking for liveries, you're looking for a bit of wing flex and just a cool aircraft, I'd go for the 787. But if you're someone who likes that live cockpit now in Infinite Flight, then the A350 is your aircraft. Now, let me know what you think. You know, you guys will obviously have different opinions as always, and I love to see a little bit of debate between you people, because everyone has their own opinion and they're all entitled to it. So other than that, if you did enjoy this video and you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe, but I'll see you all in my next video. Good night.
Find your way.